man, guys, I am so excited for this chat because we are getting into season 3, The Killer Within, a big, big episode, but also because I am with my friend Liam. He is just an amazing person, and actually somebody who's I'm actually very close with in real life and stuff like that. He's so funny. And I will put his channel link down below, but he is just a delight and wonderful. And like I said at the front of all of these chats, spoiler warning for things happening, make sure you're up to date because we do talk about things in the future. All that, so, and maybe even season 9 news, stuff like that. So, listen with caution if you are not caught up. And yeah, I am so excited. We get into the episode. We get into the excruciating deaths of the episode, talking about certain things with Carl's development and all sorts of things, how we felt about the governor and that whole Woodbury side of things. And it's kind of really interesting to go back into the prison days, which I think is when the show kind of got a little bit, kind of blew up and got pretty big. So it was so fun talking to Liam about this. I hope that you guys are excited. Let's get into this chat.
We're on Easy Street, and it feels so sweet, 'cause the world is but a treat when you're on Easy Street.
Hey guys, and welcome to the next Walking Dead chat. This is the chat for season 3, and we are going to be discussing one of the most devastating episodes, I think. Everybody could let me know how they feel about it, but with The Killer Within, and we are joined here by Liam Duke, who, if you don't know, is he's like the best reactor you're not watching. I'll just say that. He's amazing. How are you doing?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm good. So I think it's kind of interesting because you've basically reacted to the entirety of The Walking Dead within fairly recently.
Yeah, I caught up just as season 8 was getting going, really.
And why did you start watching?
Well, I knew it was huge anyway, and I just happened to buy a box set like 1 to 4 years ago. Yeah. And I always meant to get round to it because I knew it would be my kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But my family are not into zombies, so I was not allowed to watch it at home.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So once I got to uni, I was like, well, I'm on my own in a room. I might as well get going with it. So
rebellious of you.
I know.
And you just started reacting to it like right then, and that was it?
Yeah, I started my channel the month before I started Walking Dead. So I did Stranger Things season 1 first, and then it was a month to the day, actually. I then started Walking Dead.
Yeah. And how was that journey for you, going through The Walking Dead? Did you expect it to be as heartbreaking as it was for you? Yeah.
Nowhere near. I knew it was kind of like famous in the same way Game of Thrones is for like killing off characters willy-nilly. And so I was kind of prepared for that aspect of it, but my God, I didn't expect the emotional attachment you would get to these characters. So it was just absolutely devastating.
And do you remember like which episode was like the one that you were like, oh my God, this is heart-wrenching? Was it this one, or was there something before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was the episode. I remember doing like my after reaction comments and stuff, saying this was the episode that made me love the show.
Yeah.
Because this was the first episode that made me absolutely sob.
Yeah, I think that for a lot of people, I think there was definitely emotional moments before and everything like that, but I think this one, and it came so unexpectedly, like episode 4 randomly.
Yeah, so cleverly placed.
I remember when I watched it, I was up visiting my brother in Boston, and we were like, "Oh, let's just watch The Walking Dead before we go to bed." And we had to get like up early the next morning. It was something like that. I don't really remember,
Yeah.
but and then we watched it and we were like, what was that? And we were just like sitting there like depressed all night. We couldn't sleep. Like it was a mess. So
Yeah.
I don't recommend watching this episode before you have to get up early in the morning.
Yeah, I had a lecture the next morning and I was actually going to go to bed. And I thought, you know what, I can squeeze in one Walking Dead. And of course it was this episode. So I was just, no, I'm not sleeping now. This is just so sad.
Did you get any warning from subscribers? Because I don't know if you read your comments or not. Or were they pretty good with like not telling you?
No, this was at a point where I might get a comment every 4 or 5 videos, so no one really.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh God, I wish I don't know if I wanted to be warned or not. Looking back, I feel like it was probably better reaction wise that I had no idea.
Well, I think it is an interesting like what is better, because this one really does kind of like hit you out of nowhere. I think it's emotional, even if you don't particularly like Lori, like a lot of people. Definitely. It's still really emotional. But then there's something like the season 7 premiere, which you knew was going to be rough. And I don't know what's better. You're just sitting there waiting for like the horrible things to happen, or if it just like comes at you.
Yeah.
I don't know where.
I knew it was going to be like a huge deal because people were warning me months in advance of me watching that. But I only thought it would be one person. So then that was just.
Yeah, that's true. Again. They did still like kind of surprise with that as well. Well, getting into this episode. So basically, this is kind of the beginning of Rick's group realizing that sometimes leaving people alive is not really the best thing. Yeah. Which is weird because I feel like we've come very full circle with that. But this is kind of, in general, I felt like Rick's group had a fairly trusting nature. And he didn't kill Andrew. And then this happened. So how do you think this episode kind of influenced how they treat strangers in the future?
What I love that this episode did was show actions can have consequences in terms of who you leave alive, who you kill, because they could have easily never brought Andrew back into it.
Yeah.
And I find that quite interesting. And Maggie says something quite early on when they're talking about Axel and Oscar, and she's like, it feels wrong to have strangers here and that kind of thing. So they're starting to kind of, I feel like, crack under the pressure of having new people around. And this is kind of, for me, like the dawn of the three questions that they ask.
Yeah.
Which is obviously like a huge deal in how they, integrate new people into the group now. So I feel like this has a huge influence in how they move forward as a group.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not every single person they came across after. I mean, because Michonne showed up after, like not too long after this, and she was all right. Rick kind of liked her eventually, sort of. Yeah. But I think that like it is interesting because I mean there was Andrew, and then obviously the governor was kind of like a big one. Leaving him alive kind of really fucked them in the end. Yeah. So it is interesting to kind of, I think that was a big plot line of season 3 and season 4. Like when you come across people, can you actually trust anyone? And there has been some good. I mean, there was like in season 4, there was like Abraham and his group and, but there's also cannibals. So, how did you feel about Axel and Oscar? Did you think that the group really should have like welcomed them, or should they just have been skeptical and been like, listen, we don't care. Stay in your little cell.
Yeah, this was the thing for me. I feel like me as an audience member watching it had a different opinion to how I would be if I was actually in their situation. Yes. So if I was in the show, I'd be like, yeah, you can go away, or we should just kill them. But as an audience member, I feel like I want to be a decent person, and I'd be like, well, we could give them a chance, even if they are, in jail.
Yeah. I think it was interesting because of the sheer fact that they really didn't seem like that bad of guys. But it's just like you can't take any chances at this point, especially with everything that they've been through recently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who did you prefer Axel's approach? Because Axel was so like, come on, bro. Like, and Oscar was just like, listen, I'm not begging anybody for anything. Was there a character that you particularly liked more? Did you think one was more effective in trying to get into Rick's group?
Yeah, well, Axel was more words and Oscar was more actions, and I do tend to say and speak louder than words. But it's because Axel's approach was kind of used as comic relief in the episode. Yeah. So I kind of felt myself drawn to that approach as well. But I feel like in terms of effectiveness, Oscar probably had it.
I just loved how, like, Oscar was always just like, well, you just, get yourself together to Axel.
Like, he was just like, grow some balls or something, he said to him, yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever wonder more about Oscar and Axel's backstory, like, throughout the season? Or was it, because spoilers, guys, they didn't make it too long.
Surprise. Yeah, looking back, I think when I was actually watching it, I was just like, okay, these guys are here. But as I grew more of an attachment to the main characters, I have like this yearning to learn more about absolutely everyone. So looking back, I would definitely have liked to seen more about where they came from and how the hell did Axel become this guy.
So also in this episode, it's weird because when I went back and watched it, I was like, oh, we actually have a fair amount of governor stuff in this episode as well. And I thought it was absolutely mostly just, I don't know. When you think about the episode, you think about the deaths and what happens at the prison. You don't really think that there was actually stuff going on.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same.
How did you feel about the introduction of the governor? Were you skeptical? Were you
having I feel like I'd learned from that point that you shouldn't trust anyone, but I think it's because I really loved Walk With Me, the previous episode.
Yeah.
And I thought that was such an interesting introduction to him and Woodbury and everything. I did feel myself kind of drawn to him, but I was naturally kind of like Michonne, never quite certain and fully sold on him.
Yeah. I think, why do you think Michonne was so much more skeptical than Andrea, who maybe she kind of wanted to believe in something?
Yeah, I also feel like Michonne's probably naturally better at pushing people away. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Andrea still had recent relationships with Amy and Dale to hold on to. And she still had gotten used to this group of friends being around her. Whereas I feel like Michonne had been on her own for a bit longer than that.
Yeah, I think, Michonne, they both kind of had some kind of tragic loss when it comes to family and stuff like that. And I think it was just different human reactions maybe. And Andrea kind of wanted a place to stay. She wanted to be strong and help a community. Whereas Michonne maybe kind of wanted to be a little bit more of a loner and just look out for herself.
Yeah, I think she definitely played it a bit more safe than Andrea would have liked to.
Yes. And there was a very big part of this episode was them deciding whether or not they were actually going to leave or stay, which kind of was really sad. I wanted them to stick together throughout the whole season.
Yeah.
And again, spoilers, it didn't work out so great for Andrea in the end.
Oh, poor Andrea.
I know. Why? So The scene that disturbed me, and I know that sounds weird, but disturbed me was the scene between Andrea and Merle, just because for once Merle was not like a complete creep.
Yeah.
An asshole. And like, I love Merle. I will go on record saying like, I absolutely love Merle, but like, you know, he's not the nicest person to be around. And it was like this really nice, sweet scene where they're talking about the old group and stuff like that. Did that make you feel uncomfortable at all? Or were you just, you're like, well, I guess they're just bonding.
Yeah, I'd completely forgotten about like that whole scene, but it was weird seeing Merle actively try and bond with someone. And the way he like framed it and saying we both got abandoned by the same people, he framed it very delicately, and I don't know, it was weird seeing that side of him.
Do you think that was maybe him like just getting into like her good graces so she would help him find Daryl?
I would say that's probably his main motivation behind all of that.
Yeah, it's weird because I think, or maybe the governor sweet talking people is just rubbing off on him over time.
That's true. Yeah,
but because Merle is not the best person ever, you know, but he's also But I will say I do believe he genuinely deeply cares for Daryl.
Yes, definitely.
Even if it's a twisted way. But so I think like that was kind of his main goal. And just even seeing like the governor kind of shut him down and be like, well, if you get more evidence, we'll go and try to see if we can find him, was kind of sad.
Yeah.
So why do you think the governor, because the governor comes across people and shoots them. Like,
as you do, yeah.
You know, like, and keeps heads and, you know, and he's an interesting fellow. Why do you think when he found Merle, he saved him?
I feel like Merle has this deep fire inside of him and this determination, and he probably like found Merle and thought, Jesus Christ, this guy cut his fucking hand off just to survive. And I feel like he looked at Merle and saw someone so determined to survive that there was probably a place for him in his ranks.
Yeah. He might have like also seen, we didn't see when the governor and Merle met or anything like that, but I would assume that Merle wasn't like, you know, a peach the whole entire time. So he probably was like, you know, if anybody's going to be my, no pun intended, right-hand man, you know, like, I don't even know if he has his right hand or his left hand, but, you know, one of those. But, you know, like, it probably should be somebody who's a bit shadier.
Yeah.
Not upstanding with morals.
Yes.
I feel like if the governor came across, like, Glenn instead, he would be like, no, not this guy.
Yeah. Oh, Glenn.
Oh, Glenn.
Oh.
So I know that this is mostly about the Killer Within episode, but I kind of was just curious. How did you feel about Andrea and Merle's character arcs in season 3? Because they were probably two of the more significant character arcs that the show had. Yeah,
for me, it was weird because obviously I didn't know either of them would be dead by the end of the season. Yeah. So I could only really look back at it in hindsight now. But I found Andrea's quite interesting, and how some may say naively trying to keep the peace and bring these people together. And I like how she very much had the mindset Dale had of trying to like negotiate peace. And I feel like she took that on board when he died. Rest in peace, Dale. And I love that. I think she sums it up pretty well in like her final little speech, where she says, I just didn't want anyone to die, and that she tried.
Yeah.
And I think it was interesting that they show a story arc with a main character like this, who fails in achieving kind of what she wanted to do.
Yeah, but it's still noble in a sense.
Yeah.
I think the audience sometimes forgets that Andrea was not privy to everything that we were.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
I think the only time that I was a little was when she did finally go back to the prison and kind of, like they were like, look at all this horrible stuff the governor did. And she's like, well, I'm going to go back anyway. And you're like, wait.
Yeah, that's true.
And how'd you feel about, I mean, Merle, I adore. And I know that sounds weird, but I adore Merle.
Yeah, he's not a good person, but he's a great character. So I think it's okay to like him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really liked what they did with him here. I'm really glad he like came back, because I was worried that he would just be like gone forever. And then Daryl like hallucinated him once, and I was like, is he really ever going to come back? But then he showed up, and it was great. And I loved like the path to almost redemption, I suppose, by the end of the season. And I love how they highlighted that he did love his brother. It still stands out to me. I can't remember exactly what episode, but when he sees like the scars on Daryl's back, and I'll never forget the look on his face when he saw those. Yeah,
I think that, and I'm not sure. I don't think Merle, like in the penultimate episode when he goes on his whole, mission. I think he's just saving Daryl. He could care less about Rick and the group and stuff like that. Yeah. But I think he killed as many of the governor's men as he could.
Yeah.
So that Daryl didn't have to. It made it a little easier for his brother. And that just warmed my heart, even though he's the worst,
Yeah. Warmed your heart, and he got shot in his, unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh. I was so upset about that because I was really like hoping for more development with Merle.
Yeah, me too. I was definitely left like wanting more of him. He's just so much fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, he's just, I think, one of the more interesting characters that we've had especially in the beginning of the series. But I feel like I'm slightly alone in that opinion, but I stick to it. So going into the prison.
Yeah.
Wonderful. The fun part of this episode.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't all bad. We had some moments of happiness before it all went terribly to shit. Yeah. There's this moment where Herschel's kind of getting up to walk. And how did you feel about him having such a like amazing attitude about losing his leg, like just episodes before?
I know, it's just so Herschel. I loved Herschel so much.
Yeah.
I was so sad when he made his exit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I loved, it's a tiny little moment where Carl was like, are you up for a race? And he was like, give me a few days. And I loved his outlook on that. And I think it was Glenn who said it, but they put it best when he was like, he's one tough son of a bitch.
Yeah, I think I think Herschel's seen some shit in his life pre-apocalypse. He'd never seemed to be... I think that was maybe the difference that I felt between Herschel... Well, I don't want to speak for Dale, but I felt like Dale was really kind of just a good guy, decent morals, and kind of was always that way. Whereas I feel like Herschel, he was an alcoholic. He lost his wife. He went through some shit. So I feel like him losing a leg was like, it could be worse,
That's true. Yeah.
And there's that moment where they're all like smiling at each other after Herschel comes out, and they're kind of separated, but everybody has this kind of really sweet moment. Were you suspicious that, whenever people smile for too long on this show, it doesn't like end well normally?
Yeah, I think no one could be happy for like more than 10 minutes on The Walking Dead. I think that's kind of the rule.
Yeah,
so
probably.
As soon as everyone was happy, and Rick and Laurie were having like a nice little moment, and then I was like, well, something's going to go horribly wrong. And I think that's what made the opening sequence so powerful, when we see like the trap being set up.
Yeah.
As us as an audience, we knew it was inevitable that something was going to go horribly wrong.
Yeah.
And there's just this uneasy feeling even throughout a scene where the characters we know and love are just really, really happy.
How did you feel about like that being the last time that Rick saw Lori? Because they were not on the best of terms. They were still husband and wife. I felt they were still a team in some aspects.
Mm.
How did you feel about that really being their final moment?
I
together?
love the tragedy of it.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that aspect of it. And it was a moment of hope, and then we see the death of hope almost immediately after that. And that's kind of like a running thing throughout the episode, because there's a lot of death, and it doesn't have to just mean like physical characters, you know. I think obviously something died inside of Rick and Carl in this episode as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, just it's thinking of what could have been with those two, having that brief moment where you think, well, maybe they'll be okay, and then obviously fate has other plans.
Yeah, I think it was like it was kind of the show telling the audience like, oh, there's hope for these two. It's going to be okay. They can get over, everything that's gone on. But I think it's just, it's good. I think that Rick, that wasn't the last thing, or the last thing that he ever said to Lori wasn't like some nasty side comment, like whatever. Yeah. And they actually had this moment instead, even though they didn't really say anything to each other.
Yeah, that would have been, I think, even harder for him to deal with if he had that over his head. Yeah.
And so then, just like a drop of the hat, like the walkers start flooding in. And, at this point, I think later on in the show, almost everybody in Rick's group could handle their own, barring like maybe Eugene. Oh, Eugene. Sure. But, like with a bunch of walkers, but it was kind of the people who were there, the people who were exposed, were kind of the ones that weren't really fighters.
Yeah.
Which was kind of what was so tragic. How did you feel about Carl getting those shots off like so well right at the start?
Yeah, that did kind of take me aback how quickly he took to it. But I suppose, what else do you do with your free time in a prison? I don't know. Do you practice shooting? I'm not really sure, but
But he cool. Also really, hit the target with Shane really good when that happened. Yeah. So maybe he was a natural.
Just incredible shot, yeah.
But I remember being like, oh my God, what's going on? And then like seeing Carl just like 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm like, whoa.
He could take them.
Why is he not like on the fence like a guard?
Get blown back by the blast, yeah.
Of those people in there, was there somebody that you were mostly concerned about? Were you like, oh my God, don't hurt fill in the blank.
Herschel was my main concern because of the crutches. I was like, well, he's coping really well. But then I thought, oh no, what if he just gets eaten now or something because he can't get away? But then he proper smacked a Walker with the crutch. I was like, well, you're going to be okay.
Yeah, oh yeah, he wasn't messing around. I love that. So we lost a lot of people when they think about this episode. They think of Lori's death, obviously. Yeah. But we need to pour one out for T-Dog. Good old T-Dog. Were you expecting T-Dog to die soon or in this episode? Did you think that he was kind of on the radar of somebody that's going to go?
It was definitely probably the least surprising one of the season for me. Just because we hadn't really seen much of him compared to some other characters. So I kind of thought if anyone was going to go, it would probably be T-Dog.
Well, also at the beginning of the episode, he's talking about like, oh, we need to be good people and take in these prisoners, and we're
Yeah.
like he had to, like started having this moral center thing, and we were like, whoa, T-Dog, stop it,
Yeah.
because that's how you die.
Yeah.
When I look back at like T-Dog's death, I just get super emotional because I think he died saving someone.
Yeah. And
saving Carol.
Yeah, he became like the ultimate badass.
Yeah.
So
how did you feel about the way he went out?
I actually thought, credit where credit's due, it's quite the hero's death. I feel like some people get bit and they'd say, oh, I'm fine. They just deny it. But he accepted it with a lot of dignity and a lot of bravery. And it helped pave the way for a huge step in Carol's development. And Carol is such a loved character, at least for me. And I think a lot of people forget that we kind of owe that to T-Dog. And I think it was such a heroic way to go out.
I think, yeah, I agree, because just when he says to her, like, don't worry, I'm going to get you out of here. I'm going to make sure you're safe. It's like the way that he just accepted his fate so quickly. And he literally, like, tackled, I don't even know how many walkers just to get her out of there. And I think it's also probably pretty horrifying for Carol.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's probably one of the more overlooked moments from Carol's perspective, because obviously she's done some things and have had some terrible things happen to her. Yeah. But to know that such a good guy like T-Dog kind of, I mean, he had one of the not so pleasant deaths out of everybody.
Yeah. I forgot just how brutal it was, actually.
Yeah, he just got eaten alive. And for her to kind of, and he didn't have some kind of peaceful, beautiful shot where, you know, he puts the pistol to his head and says some final nice words or anything. He just gets kind of eaten alive, but he does it saving Carol. Do you think that like was one of the other things that kind of has influenced Carol's development over the years?
Definitely, I would say, because I think we kind of saw with, I think it's only kind of recently Carol like started mentioning Sophia again, and I feel like she doesn't always like talk about the people who have changed her, but she definitely thinks about them like all the time, and I feel like that's how it would be with her and T-Dog.
Yeah. So when you first, if you can, try to go back to when you first watched the episode, did you think Carol was dead? Or did you think she could still be alive?
I think it was definitely more in the favour of, we didn't see a definite body. She's probably okay. Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's told you this story about, do you know that she was supposed to die in the episode?
Really?
Yeah. It came out like in an interview like a couple years ago that she was supposed to be written off and killed off in the episode, but Sarah, who plays Lori, went to the writers and said it's going to be the biggest mistake of your life if you kill off Melissa.
Oh, I had no idea. Oh my god.
I think there is an interview. It's for, I believe it's for Entertainment Weekly, and Melissa didn't even know that Sarah did this, and it was like Andy who told her, and Melissa's like, "What?" Like, I had no idea.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Sarah's, listen, guys, if you don't like Lori, I get it, but Sarah is an amazing actress, but just person in general.
Yeah.
I quite love her. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like, how much would the show have missed out if Carol was not Carol?
Yeah, we wouldn't have had like Look at the Flowers or anything like that.
I would assume they would have tried to do it with somebody else, but
Yeah,
I'm
they
not
would have
sure
been.
anybody else could have pulled it off.
No, it seems like such a Carol moment. You can barely picture anyone else having that
Yeah,
role.
but it is crazy. And I think maybe it could have been kind of the start of the writers really kind of knowing and realizing, like, some of these characters that we think are so easy to kill off, maybe we should develop them
Yeah,
a bit more.
it makes you think how many others they may have considered killing and changed their minds.
Yeah.
I dread to think.
I mean, I've lost most of my favorites, so whatever.
Yeah,
Doesn't
me too.
even matter. They should have done that with some of my favorites. So we get into the point where, like, they're just trying to figure out what the hell is going on, and Andrew comes out of nowhere with that what is it, an axe or something?
I think it's an axe, yeah.
And I know this is before, like, Rick really became, like, Beast Rick, but come on, Andrew. I just don't think that's going to end well for you, honestly. How did you feel about Oscar killing Andrew and kind of solidifying that they're not trying to fuck them up?
Yeah, I did like that. Because I kind of thought maybe we could trust them anyway, because we had like those moments of Oscar kind of taking the mick out of Axel, and it was kind of comic relief there. So I thought, oh, maybe these guys are okay. And then we see Oscar kill Andrew, and that kind of cemented it. Like, okay, you can join the crew. You can get a t-shirt.
You're part of the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that obviously that was kind of like the start of them really trusting Oscar. I love, though, the shot of, like, when they pan away from Oscar after he kills Andrew, Daryl is right behind him, like, ready to slit or
ready to,
I don't know what. He really is fucking. I love the fact that, like, Daryl is, like, so ride or die, like, he doesn't.
Yeah, I forgot how action heavy his moments were in that scene, because he was like holding the door back, and then he let it open so he could grab his crossbow and shoot one, and he was kind of everything was going on in that scene.
I especially think at the beginning of the show, like, poor Norman Reedus, they really put him through the physical ringer. Like, at least one episode of every season he's had some shot. I remember I watched, to briefly step aside from this one, but when I watched, like, the behind the scenes or whatever it was for season 4 episode Alone, where Beth gets taken, and they just told him, they said, just run after the car. And he's like, okay, where do I stop? Like, what's my cue? They're like, no, keep running until you fall over. And he's like, wait, what? Like, no, I don't want to do that. So it's just so fun. I feel like more so than a lot of people, he gets a lot of physical scenes that I can't.
He'll get a scene where it's like, well, need you to ride your bike for this. He's like, oh, thank God.
It's true. He's probably so happy about that.
Yeah.
Maybe they've kind of moved on to torturing other actors a little bit more than.
Yeah, probably. He's in his contract now.
Yeah. So going into kind of the biggest moment or sequence or whatever you want to call it for the episode, talking about Laurie's death, but Judith's birth. So before we get into Laurie herself, how do you think that scene affected Carl and Maggie, the people who are actually physically there with her?
Yeah. Well, it forced Carl to grow up way before his time.
Yeah.
That's something I found in season 4, when we see him like eating the pudding and stuff, going through that child's bedroom, and it hit me then, like, he did not get a childhood.
Yeah.
And
not like that, yeah.
This was the moment where that truly began, and it made him, as we see in that awful shot where Rick's like crumbling down on his knees and Carl's just stood there like numb, and staying strong while Rick falls apart.
And with Maggie, I think it's just the best form of birth control anybody could ask for. Honestly.
Yeah. It must have made her terrified when she got pregnant.
I know that eventually Maggie got pregnant, but if I saw that, I'd be like, no, I'm good.
Yeah. She's like, Glenn, listen. Been a rough day.
When you go on runs, I need condoms. I need birth control.
Everything.
Whatever. We're going to, like, triple wrap for this because I'm not doing that. Oh, my God. But in a more serious, I don't know. Like, I feel like I feel very terrible for Maggie during that because she's the one who actually has to kill her. Yeah. I know that sounds not really, but yeah.
Yeah.
And
then we see her like being held by Glenn at the end, and she's just absolutely traumatized. And when she kind of had to try and physically stop Rick from running past her to find Laurie, that must have been so difficult. And
I think even when she like does the initial like cut, and Carl like turns to her and says like, "You're killing her."
Oh,
like, and that just, it's like, oh God, exactly what Maggie does not need to hear right now. Like,
yeah.
And I think it's kind of one of the scenes. I mean, Maggie was always a pretty decent character, but I think it showed how strong she was emotionally.
Yeah.
So with Laurie's death, how does it, when you look back at the show and like all of the death scenes that have happened and stuff, how is Laurie still kind of at the top as like one of the most devastating for you?
It's definitely up there. I think it's probably for me number 2 to Glenn.
Yeah.
And I know Laurie was never, my absolute favourite. I didn't hate her, but you cannot deny she got a damn good death, if that's even a thing.
I think a lot of people attach a lot of the emotion to what she said to Carl and seeing everything through Carl's eyes. And I think, because I do like weekly chats for episodes when I watch them and stuff, and I can't tell you how many times I bring up what Laurie says to Carl.
Yeah.
Seasons and seasons later. For, if anything, her final words were very, I think, important.
Definitely.
To his development and the show.
And even more kind of poignant given Carl's fate in season 8 as well.
Yeah. I mean, just horrifying when you rewatch it and she says, "You're going to beat this world."
Oh, God. Yeah.
How do you think, like, those final words that she said to him, like, do you think they stuck with him throughout the years? Do you think it took him a while to kind of understand everything she was saying?
Yeah, I think he needed kind of time to digest it, and she tells him, look after your daddy, and I feel like he tried to do that right from the off, because when Rick found out about her death and he kind of crumbled, Carl was there just staying strong, and I don't think he wanted to break in front of his dad. And then we see, obviously, in season 8, he kind of passes on this mission Laurie gave him onto Judith, saying that she's going to be the one who beats the world. And I love that kind of added level of tragedy to the whole thing.
Were you concerned that Judith would have been stillborn after Maggie cut her out?
Oh, God. Hardly best thinking about. I feel like most episodes I'd probably say no if that had been an event that had happened, but because this episode's just so unrelenting.
Yeah.
And there was already so much tragedy, if that had been on top of it, I feel like it would have just been even more kind of gut-wrenching.
Would that have been too much? Do you think you would have been like, all right, Walking Dead, I'm Done.
I definitely would have thought that was probably a bit too far.
Yeah.
Made us believe she got eaten, later on. So
yeah, that was horrible too. Like it just kept coming. Like what I do love about The Walking Dead is the fact that like when a character dies, they don't. It's not like they die, they have an episode mourning the character, and then everybody moves on, which I feel like a lot of shows, that's how they treat death. But like, I mean, Lori stuck around in her white dress. She was, I mean, I'm not sure they really had to do that, to be fair, but I think nonetheless, she still comes up, and like everybody's death, for the most part, there's still like kind of mentions of them and living on.
Yeah, they're still, even if they're gone, I think most of the characters are still very much kind of in the framework of the show. I think, is it season 6? I think Glenn talks to Enid and he like mentions like all these people that he's lost along the way, and that really got to me actually, just because of like the history behind the whole thing, and it just shows that the show isn't afraid of going back to people that we could have lost like 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, I love that, and I think it's like Michonne. It was like an episode in like season 5. She was talking about how she missed Andrea, which is a little bit past, everything going on. And I love that that they do mention the people and that they've lost, not just those super big characters, but maybe some. T-Dog didn't get a ton of mentions. Let's
no, that's
to
true.
Be fair. Somebody should mention T-Dog in season 9. That's my hope.
Single episode.
Randomly.
Like, they're just going to make a shrine for T-Dog.
They should. Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, oh my God. How did you feel about the fact that Carl had to shoot Lori? Did you think it was like a brave thing, or like, were you like, Carl, I don't know if you should do this?
Yeah. I mean, I probably would have done my utmost to stop him, but Laurie did say to Maggie, like, I want you to do it. It can't be Rick. And I feel like that's kind of going back to Laurie saying, look after your daddy to Carl, because he made sure it couldn't be Rick. Yeah. And I'm not sure Maggie was a bit preoccupied, having a newborn baby in her arms to maybe act on it.
Yeah. I mean, I know that you're always supposed to look out for the kids that you're with and really kind of take the brunt, but Lori or Maggie is just dealing with the fact that she cut open Lori, and like, she's going through some shit too. Like, it's not just as much as the Greens in general, I feel like, are very emotionally strong people. Like, she still went through some stuff there. Yeah.
And Carl, he was, he said, she's my mum, it's my responsibility. And I think it would have been, you would have done a good job to change his mind once he thought that.
I think he always stuck to that too, because if you think about it, he was the one who encouraged Spencer to be the one to kill the Walker version of Deanna. And he says, like, it should be somebody you love doing it. And but weirdly, he did it himself.
Yeah.
So I think maybe in that moment he realized what it did to him, and he didn't want to do that to his dad. I feel like there's a lot of things that Carl has done to kind of protect his dad for being a kid.
He was very happy to kind of burden himself with that kind of stuff, but he never wanted to be that burden himself.
Yeah, I think, I agree with that. I think also Rick deals with a lot of shit and takes a lot on his own back for other people. So maybe I think Carl thinks, like, because he's his son, like, maybe I should do some stuff as well. And it doesn't always have to be Rick who does things. Yeah. So at the end of the episode, for the longest time, my favorite scene of the whole show was Rick's reaction.
Yeah.
Because it was, for me, it was the moment that I knew that Rick was going to be my favorite TV character of all time. And Andrew Lincoln is phenomenal and the best. Because I wasn't expecting the amount of of a breakdown that he had.
Yeah.
I think
the performances in this episode were just something else.
And just seeing this guy who's normally pretty strong and not too long ago was like, this is a dictatorship, this isn't a democracy, being really kind of this strong guy just absolutely collapse because he's so devastated. Just, it wrecks me.
Yeah. I remember seeing so many memes made out of that moment before I watched the show.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because it is probably the most memeable thing.
Yeah. And I had no context behind it now, but when I see those memes and having seen that episode now, I'm just like, that's not funny. How dare you? It offends me that.
Yeah, no, I know. It's so
funny. Powerful.
I get a little protective, like you said with the memes, because you're just like, yeah, but that scene fucked me up so bad when I watched it. I don't want to hear it. But yeah, in general, this whole episode was just, and it just hits you like a ton of bricks, and it was just one of those. Do you think the show still has the ability to do something like that?
I think so. Definitely season 7 premiere.
Yeah.
And actually, the mid-season premiere for season 8 destroyed me as well. I feel like as long as it takes its time building up these characters, taking them away will always kind of have an impact. I think
it is a different vibe, because I watched that live. And The Walking Dead was doing well, getting big, but it wasn't like everybody was watching it, it is, and so now it's like the amount of stuff I have to people I have to unfollow and stuff like that on social media just to not be informed of any sort of casting decisions. And of course, we know some things and whatever. I don't know if they can really do that much of a shock value with big deaths like that anymore. Yeah. Without you really having to go and live in a hole.
Yeah. Yeah. Just stay offline forever. Yeah.
I mean, I try my best. I I try not to look at anything. Sometimes it still just happens and you get spoiled and you're like, oh, well, there goes that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a different world of watching TV now than it was even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, I think on that super depressing note, these chats are always so depressing, I feel like, for the most part.
It's not a particularly happy show for the most part, I suppose.
Yeah, I feel like there's a couple episodes that I was like, the one in season 6 where it's Rick and Daryl encounter Jesus. It's a comedy.
I remember I was flicking through TV channels a couple of years ago and Walking Dead came up and it was that bit where Rick and Daryl were chasing Jesus and I was like, what the fuck is this show? That was completely against the vision of Walking Dead I had in my mind. So I kind of did get excited when I eventually caught up to that bit. I was like, this is the bit I remember seeing.
Yeah, it was a nice breath of fresh air. And then at the end of that episode, Rick bangs Michonne. Like, everything's happy. Everything's good, you know? Like, that's kind of how I that episode sticks in my mind so vividly because it wasn't the most depressing thing, which the show is really kind of bad at. So I'm ending these Walking Dead chats by playing a game.
Ooh.
And it's basically, I'm just going to ask you questions and that are Walking Dead themed, and you just have to give just, you know, the answer. It's like a this or that. So, you know, just give the answer that comes to your mind first.
All right.
Okay? Are you ready?
Yeah. I'm so ready.
Okay. Would you rather have an endless supply of food or an endless supply of weapons?
Oh. I've got to go with my heart and say endless supply of food.
Yeah. Who would you rather babysit your kids, Negan or the governor?
Oh, God. Negan. He was quite sweet with Judith.
It's true. Would you rather spend a summer road tripping in the RV with Dale or spend a summer farming with Herschel?
Farming with Herschel.
Who would you rather be by your side and loyal to you throughout the entire apocalypse, Aaron or Jesus?
Jesus, because then he could teach me like his ninja stuff.
Is it the practical answers? I like it. Who would you rather be stuck in a prison cell with, Merle or Simon?
Oh. Simon would be a laugh at first, but, well, they'd both be a laugh at first, but then you'd want to kill them. I'm going to say Merle.
Okay. Would you rather be alive and a cannibal or a walker chained to Negan's fence?
Oh. Alive and a cannibal with lots of ketchup.
Oh, ew. You already know, like, how you'd eat the people. Like,
yeah, I've thought long and hard about this, clearly.
No, good. Would you rather live in a community with Gregory as the leader or with Spencer as the leader?
Oh, God. I'd have to say with Spencer, because Gregory's just the worst.
It's fair. Would you rather eat a tub of chocolate pudding with Carl on a rooftop or get drunk on moonshine with Daryl and Beth?
I am all for getting drunk. I mean, I love pudding. I feel like Carl and I would be best friends forever, but Daryl and Beth, that would be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, moonshine doesn't taste that great.
No, I'd just hold my nose.
Good plan. Would you rather the show give a flashback to Glenn and Maggie's wedding or finally show what in the hell ever happened to Heath?
Maybe. I'm going to say, I love Glenn and Maggie too much to say no to them, so I'd say that. And Heath can be at the wedding, so we still see him.
That was before they... He's just there, like, randomly, like...
He's just there in the background.
I heard there was a wedding. I heard there was food.
Yeah, he's not invited, but he's there.
All right. If you had to choose, who would you rather beat to death with Lucille?
Oh God.
Ezekiel?
Oh.
Or Jerry?
I cannot believe you asking me this. Oh.
If you had to.
If I had to. Oh, I couldn't wipe that smile off Jerry's face, could I? He's just so pure. I feel like Ezekiel would, take it and make me feel nicer about it. I'm going to have to say, sorry, Ezekiel. I love you, man, but you're getting bludgeoned.
Would you rather bring Shiva back to life or ensure that Judith survives until the end of the show?
Oh, man. Oh, but the kitty. Oh, man. I mean, Shiva was great, but she went out nobly. I think I'd have to ensure that Judith survived till the end.
Yeah. There's no wrong answers.
I know, but I still feel like it's wrong. Shiva.
Would you rather be as smart as Eugene or as good of a shot as Sasha?
Good of a shot as Sasha, I think.
Would you rather make Carol look at the flowers
Ooh.
or kill Michonne with her own sword?
Oh God. This might be the hardest one yet. Oh, man. I mean, can I have Michonne look the other way?
It's not specific as to where she's looking, sure.
Okay. I'm not really sure that changes things, but...
I was like, do you just not want her staring at you? Like, you just couldn't do it.
I love them both, but I think I love Carol a little bit more, so I'd have to kill Michonne with her own swords. Sorry, Michonne.
Sorry. Who would you rather be on your side in a fight to the death? Rick or Daryl?
Oh, man. I think would I rather have the guy who blew up people with an RPG or the guy who tore out a man's throat? I feel like Rick would really commit. I think I'd have to say Rick.
He is committed when he wants to. Yeah, it's true. And the last question, who would you bring back to life if you could? Glenn or Carl?
Oh, man. I mean, Carl, I love you. I miss you. But Glenn is my all-time favourite, so I'd bring back Glenn.
I agree. So, don't worry. Well, that concludes our chat and our just random game where you feel bad about, killing Michonne.
I feel like everyone I just killed in that game is staring at me right now. Making me uncomfortable.
Well, I don't think it's going to come true, so you're okay.
Good. I hope not.
But if you get contacted by the Walking Dead writers and they're like, well, we need you to come on the show just to kill Michonne.
Yeah.
You're going to have to face that decision.
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
All right, guys. Well, I hope that you guys enjoyed this chat, looking back at probably one of the more depressing episodes. I feel like I keep saying that, and then I'm like, but there's more depressing episodes that I also do these chats for. So
yeah, maybe it's one of the first major
depressing episodes. That's a good way to put it. Yeah,
that's the standard for the depressing episodes to come.
Yeah. Make sure that you guys check out Liam's channel. It'll be in the description below. And I will see you guys tomorrow for another Walking Dead video. Bye.
Bye.